Well, we've already had the informal introduction, so let's just jump straight into the formal one for everyone else. Dinah Turner.
Oh, Dinah.
There we go.
Sorry.
I'm more than happy to be corrected.
It's all right, Jake.
Yeah. Jacques. I should have listened to the thing on LinkedIn, shouldn't I? Or typed your name in. So apologies.
That's all right.
Apparently, you help move strategy to reality. You're an action-orientated, technology and people-focused leader.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneurial leader, and probably the most helpful conversation you'll have about what you want to do and try to achieve will be with you. I got that off your LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, it's good, that, isn't it? Sounds quite clever. Yes, I am those things. And I think that entrepreneurial thing is just opportunity spotting.
Yeah.
You know, it's about understanding where problems are, where value is, how you can sort of structure things for people and that side of it. And I think that probably the most useful conversation is actually from a couple of people that I'd spoken to. So I get a lot of people who come to me and say, this is something I want to do, or this is a business we have, or this is a product we have. What's next?
Yeah.
How can we do more with it? What does that look like? And I think maybe it's that I ask good questions and just can take sometimes this big cloud of ideas and bring that to a point of right, okay, maybe then now this is actionable steps, things that you can do with that. So that's sort of why it says that summary, I guess.
No, it's good. At least you agree with it.
Yeah.
So
now I'm reminded of it, yeah.
when I am digging around, I like to pluck out LinkedIn posts that I think may strike a chord or I find interesting. So this one was quite a long one, so bear with me, listener.
Oh gosh.
So I think this was it was a bit within the last couple of weeks anyway. So the title was How We Feel About Employees Over 50.
Oh, okay.
So you put, well, it's a week since I was pleased to join Innovation Foundation to look at employment for over 50s and the specific challenges for that group. There is so much commonality in the problem faced. We've effectively got a confidence problem in the over 50s, even though they are perceived as experienced and trustworthy. Opposite problems exist in the early talent space. Many are perceived as short-term in their career and commitment. In addition, both groups aren't hearing back about job applications, aren't aware many jobs are fake jobs, are unable to explain their skill sets beyond job roles, can't see where they fit. Would it be good to do something about this? At the moment, in the news, we're hearing about apprenticeships being pulled and older workers being made redundant. At the same time, you can read about skill shortages, investment for young people in AI, an aging workforce in STEM, causing potential issues for skills. Is this all noise? Maybe. Is it noise that influences decision makers? Possibly. Something really needs to change in this space, and soon. I think it calls for effective leadership and humanity in how we work and how systems thinking about skills. There's more in common than divides these groups. How can we look intelligently and adjacent skill sets and reskilling, mentoring and reverse mentoring, joining up approaches, creating action against inaction?
No, it's long, that, isn't it? Crikey.
That's great though. What?
And I didn't even use AI to write it, I think.
No, we can, yeah, well. Yeah, there was no dashes, so we could tell.
But I do use those. So.
Yeah, but not the double dash. That's the
maybe.
That's the sneaky one. I found that really intriguing, and I just wondered if we or you could dig into what triggered that.
So I was invited down to I've got quite a history around things around people, basically. So a lot of the work that I've done in the past has been transformational activities. I'm time served in DWP as well, and understanding how we deliver services and solutions to our citizens, as well as working in private sector on different things. And at the moment, I am working with an organisation called Skills Miner, which is looking at how we unpick skills in humans and how we sort of really understand those human skills, the transferable skills, and what puts people into jobs.
Yeah.
Because we're hitting this crazy space of, well, there's always been change, right? So everyone, will talk about looms and things like that. We've always had industrial revolutions and we've had change, but the rate of change right now is really more than exponential for people. And we're trying to understand, if you can break out the ingredients of people to the skills that they've got, that helps you understand how you can transfer those skills into new roles, new careers, new directions. And it's kind of about that agility that's in people rather than it just being about the job I do.
Yeah.
So like Jack, your job that you do, you bring all the transferable skills that from all the things you've done and all the bits that make you you. So that session that we did, it was an ideation session run by the Innovation Foundation about this specific problem of over 50, sort of over 50s into work. Because if you're made redundant at over 50, it's a really hard place to be at. So you're having to start job searching. How do you tell someone what you've done up to this point? If someone just might judge you on what you did before as a job title and they haven't got that job title again. Yeah. And then you have to like self-identify your skills and your knowledge, and it's a horrible place to be at, really. And I think it's a confidence problem. But I also hear the same is happening with younger employees, which is why I was thinking there's so much parallel in this. So the problems aren't just in the over 50s. They're in those younger cohorts of people as well.
It's an interesting problem to try and solve. How did you get involved?
It's a hard problem to solve, and it's not solvable probably.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. You can take steps that might nudge you towards bits of solutions in that space. I mean, it's a really hard nut to crack.
Yeah.
And you've got so many players in that landscape around things that, like, you've got if you're sort of thinking about the value chain of how that would work, you've got the person who's looking for work, you've got the services they use to get into work, whether those are, government services or web, searching for jobs, that kind of thing. You've got programs that bring people back into returnerships, and you've got employers, and you've got policies. Yeah. So there's like this big messy landscape around that. And how did I get into that? Well, I've always been interested in learning and helping people understand their potential. So years ago, I ran a social enterprise looking at helping kids in school understand business and what they could do. Yeah. Because if you don't know it, if you don't see it, you can't be it. If you don't know about it, and I think there's just this visibility issue that we have. Whereas if you think, it's like if you're trying to explain your job to your mum. She's no idea. Like my mum she always says, I love it. Have you finished work for the day? I'm like, Mum, I've never finished work. I'm always thinking about work stuff. But it's like trying to explain that in her context is really hard. And so the same for young people. They've only experienced so much knowledge. They've seen what their parents might do, their aunties, their uncles, the society they live in. They see stuff. But if you went into, a group of 15, 16-year-olds and explained what you do, how many of them would understand that even exists? They'd not have a clue.
No, especially if I went back to where I grew up.
Yeah.
Because, like if you can't see it, you don't believe it. I didn't know things like this existed from slanted no in North Wales. Like people didn't run businesses. People didn't really, I don't want to do it a disservice, but there's more people who stayed than left or went back. So I think it is important. Me and my wife were talking about this the other day. From a young person's point of view, like it's a different challenge, but when we were younger, and I'm only 35, it was the done thing to go and get a job when you were 15, 16, 14 maybe, if you could get away with it.
Yeah.
But now there just doesn't, like, I wonder, I do worry about the future because there doesn't seem to be as much get up and go at the moment to go. Because for us, and that's not their fault, but for us, we were walking the other morning, it was like all of our mates went and got little jobs.
Yeah.
And that's just what you did because you wanted
cash,
money,
yeah.
you wanted some cash. We would literally go along, landed no seafront, and knock on hotel doors and go, basically, you got any jobs going? And I just don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that resilience has been built up of going, no, bugger off. Like that builds you up, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's both ends, there's challenges.
Yeah. And how did you, when you started your first job, what led you to making that decision?
So just all my mates were doing it.
Yeah.
Like at 13, and it was literally 13. I keep mentioning Llandudno, like everyone will know where it is.
But I know where it is, so that's
so.
Okay.
At the top of the Orme, there's the Summit complex.
Yeah.
We just went up there and
Yeah.
we were just pot washing, and we were on £2.75 an hour.
And did you have to walk up to the top?
We'd get the cable car.
Okay.
And then it just went from pot washing job to pot washing job, and then I got a job in next, and then I joined the Navy. But that was just what everyone else was doing, and I could be wrong, but I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah. So but what you were doing, and probably that's similar for me. I started off doing a pot wash, start off in a cafe, then in a bar, all that sort of stuff. And then while you're studying or doing different things as well, and they had skills in your backpack all the time.
Yeah.
Almost, you're like thinking, I know how to deal with difficult people, or I know how to deal with
chefs.
Yeah. Chefs is a whole different thing, So we love the chefs, but that's a kitchen, kitchen situation. And some of them will make Gordon Ramsay pale, wouldn't they? But you're learning different behaviours and different coping approaches, and it's like anything, it's experiential, isn't it? You're going through that and thinking, okay, I didn't do that. You're reflecting on it. You're having your mini retros for yourself every time about how could I do that better, or you talk to people about how things work. But I think it's harder maybe now because there's sort of some of this litigious behaviour, like you don't want kids under a certain age in your business because of safeguarding or legal issues, and which is probably okay.
That's
we
probably
have
a good thing.
Child labour laws, probably a good thing, but it does maybe mean it's harder for kids to get going. It's harder for them to access work, but there's probably going to be this challenge. There's a lot of noise at the moment, and that's in my post about, is technology going to remove the need for those entry-level jobs, because that repeatable stuff, not the physical stuff, but a lot of like call centres or admin jobs, those things that give people the foot in the door opportunity, are those going to go? And are businesses making decisions that are kind of financially based and thinking, well, if I don't have to pay for that thing, I can put the brakes on that. We don't have to bring in those things because I can replace that job with technology. But the reality is the middle of your organisation comes from somewhere. And if you're not feeding younger talent into that picture, what's going to happen in that space? So there's it's such a complex picture. And like the over 50s thing is different as well, because you have big swathes of industry and the STEM side of this, where the age, and construction similarly, the age of that workforce is tipping at the older end of the spectrum. So there's so much knowledge and experience in there that needs to be mentored back into a cycle of younger people. But if we don't keep that pipe moving, that's going to create big bubbles of problems for us going forward.
We see it in things like the defence industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Where people have been working on the same system, weapon, whatever, for years and years. And obviously they're going to age out at some point.
Yeah.
This is an assumption, there's no fact. But then I wonder how many younger people really want to go and work in that industry.
In those industries.
Because I've interviewed people and, Scrum Masters, project managers, And obviously when you're advertising this stuff, you have to be a bit cagey, but as soon as you're in front of them, you go, just to let you know, this is in the defense space and this is ultimately what you're going to be contributing to.
Yeah.
And I've had not like a massive chunk, but a decent enough percentage. They go, okay, thank you very much, but that's not for me.
Not for me. And that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there will be people that will work in different sectors. You know, there are sectors that I might choose not to work with, where I feel that I can be confident making a decision now to say, actually, that's not for me, because trying to help your business work better when it's doing something I don't perhaps ethically agree with, I'm not that keen on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the defense, I always think, is a bit different because it's a necessity in some, in some cases, isn't it? If we had especially at the moment, if we had a situation where we didn't have to have defense, we'd all enjoy that. That'd be fantastic. But that's not the world that we live in. And also that security message is increasingly prevalent in lots of industries now. So where you might have been lean and not spending in certain industries, what you actually are looking at now is challenges for that in things like energy security, food security, medicine security, all the stuff that actually, if we become challenged, globally in where we sit, and we saw this in COVID of when we couldn't access things and we couldn't look at our supply chain and suddenly everything became very problematic. That systems thinking approach is really necessary in those businesses to think, right, actually, how do we do this? And it's every day, if you're like a systems thinker and you see stuff and you'll think, okay, so we're challenging. We don't have enough STEM kids coming into industry. We don't have enough people joining manufacturing, engineering jobs, those kind of things. And then on the other hand, we're cut funding for STEM teachers or something like that. And you just think, oh my goodness, there's no join up in this. And so, I think it's just understanding it's a complex landscape and it's hard to get your head around it. So just picking off value across that and thinking how you can build that in is, steps that incrementally nudge you towards benefits in it, I suppose.
Yeah. I think about this stuff at home and one wants to get more involved. Like you could think you want to get more involved in helping and stuff, whoever's in charge, but it's just quite hard to, everything you're describing, I want someone in government to be going, come and listen, sort of thing. But that's the frustrating part.
I know, it's frustrating. And I think if you think everybody's really trying to do a good job.
Yeah.
So that's your assumption that, most people are trying to do a good job of what they're trying to do. But sometimes it might be that their visibility, they don't always have visibility of all of these things. And I think that's big.
Yeah.
It's just understanding the complexity of some of these systems and situations takes a lot of lifting up rocks and looking at it all. There's a lot there, and that sometimes can be too much, and people can go, right, I want to focus on this thing because I can progress this thing. And that from the outside might look like you're thinking, oh, that's not enough, or it's not, but it's how things play out in that space. I think there's a lot of space in the policy sector and the skills space, because they've just moved to Skills England. Scotland has Skills Development Scotland. Skills England are a newly formed organisation that are tasked with looking at this around like local skills improvement and regional skills improvement and how they do that. So we can hold out hope that they're thinking about this a bit differently, maybe.
Yeah. Nice segue, really. Obviously, you've got so many roles. You've had so many roles, sorry.
More roles than Greg's.
Yeah, I like that. That's the thumbnail. That's the episode title. So many roles across different sectors. In your mind, obviously, you can only speak from your experience. What's the main differences between working in the public and private sectors, if any?
I don't know. It's interesting. I think public is complex, and it has a lot of sort of legislative approaches that you're not quite as tied to if you're in private sector.
Yeah.
So things like, exercises to do things that you will have to go through a lot more hoops perhaps in the public sector than you might in a private sector. That's not to say private sector decisions are, any less rigorous or wrong, but it's just making sure that you're doing the right thing in the public sector. I think you're in the public sector, you're always aware, or you should always be aware that you're spending public money. So everything has to be of value. In the private sector, you're always on the bottom line. No matter what anyone says, it's always a commercial decision. Everything has to have a commercial value. And I think that commercial awareness is necessary in both. What's the differences? I don't know. People are lovely in all of those places. People are lovely, and there are also some people who are not. But that's everywhere, and that's going to always be the same. That's communities and society, isn't it? And I don't know, I really loved my time working in government. I really enjoyed the work we did. It felt like it was making differences to people. We were driving, big technology changes and doing different things like that. I think, it's probably just speed of work. And I know that that's changing, because I know that government since GDS was sort of starting when I was in government, in DWP. But that changes there. But I think that that speed of change, that rate of change is improving in there. But it'd be good to just have more of that speed. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's hard. There's that trickle down from policy to decision making and then what we're going to do about it. And I always also think there's a bit of and you get this in all sectors, but there's a view that you have to build it yourself a lot in some of that around. We learn languages around agile, around things like co-design and problems, solutions, and we can build it this way. And I think sometimes that might slow people down more.
Yeah.
I feel that you could look at reuse, repurpose, reutilization, looking at what other people have done. And I have a bit of a drum that I bang on that sometimes about looking to where excellence is and borrowing brilliance from other people. Yeah. Like you can reuse stuff just because you think you want to do it your way and you want to co-design with your people and you want to have products that that's not all value.
Yeah.
Better value might be served by looking at who's already done a brilliant job of that somewhere else and looking if you can bring that to you rather than starting from scratch every time. Because it's like, I might want to go out for a run in a pair of trainers tomorrow morning, or I might want to learn how to make a pair of trainers from scratch. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Which one works for you? And I think you should be commercially savvy around some of that and think about the business cases for those things. That's a little bit of a frustration that I have sometimes in that space, that we have to build from foundational in that way.
Complete left field question. Because you mentioned running.
Yeah.
Are you a runner?
No, I can't even.
Okay. I won't ask you what running trainers you've got then.
Well, I tell you what, I want to be a runner. Okay. What happened is I broke my ankle and my leg last year. That's going to stop you, isn't it? And that stopped me. So I'm now 12 months outside. I'm 12 months on.
Yeah.
And I have permission to start jeffing.
Oh, running. Is that running and walking?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My kids call it mogging, which is mum jogging. But it's
a lot of time for that.
There we go. So I should be starting 1 minute on, 1 minute off.
You've got to start somewhere.
I know. I better start because I've got a 10K booked at the end of the year, which is optimistic.
Oh, which one?
Altrincham.
Oh, posh.
Yeah, dead posh.
So back to that question of being in the, again, you might not be able to answer, I don't know, but I'm intrigued. When people say there's people in government and they've never, I don't know, you might have a pension secretary, or I don't know what the equivalent would be, or an education secretary who's never been a teacher. Is that from someone who's worked in those sorts of scenarios, is that a bad shout? Is that unfair to the people in those positions?
I think people have to learn a lot very fast. So if it depends if it's ministerial, basically that's like you get your people elected, don't you? Yeah. And then you're going, who's best fit for the job here? So if you have at least got a background in health and you're working in health, that would probably be a good idea. Yeah. If you've got a background in technology, it's probably a good idea to put you in something like that.
I just don't seem to do that very often.
No, maybe not. But I suppose you've got that cohort. It's a bit like back to the skills backpack again, right? So you think you've got your elected ministers, who's going to be the best fit for the jobs you've got. And you've not always got you might not always have a direct match for that in terms of what their skill set is, what their passion is, what their ability to learn about that is going to be like as well, because they have to go in and learn all around how that department works, and they'll have their private secretaries and so on that are helping them to understand how this all works and the machinations of like the civil service in that space. But it's an interesting world, all that, I think.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And I think people it's easy to make bold and sweeping statements about things, isn't it? But once you start uncovering anything, it's complex. So, I think people can say stuff like, oh, it's taxpayers' money, and then they don't, all civil servants are taxpayers. Don't forget, it's their money. Yeah. So they're making decisions about that money too. Why wouldn't they be trying to drive value out of it? So there's, you can take simple black and white, easy solutions, but the life is in the grey, isn't it? It's always in the blurred bits in the middle.
Yeah. Thank you. So in terms of what you're doing now, we had a bit of a chat over there, but you're I know it's only a title, so, but customer director, how have you sort of...
What is a customer director?
How have you ended up where you are now?
Yeah, so I think when I say it's just a title, what I mean is sometimes like you have a sort of random word generator for what do you do, and then let's come up with 2 words that try and explain that. And we find this in the business that I'm working with at the moment, like we talk about Subway sandwich artist. Yeah. Like, okay, what is that? Yeah. It's someone that makes sandwiches. So a customer director, I'm always looking at what our customer needs are. I'm always looking at where the problems are in the customer space, how we can use technology to assist and augment what their problems may be. My focus is on them and how we can drive value for them. So that's about getting them, to understand the issues that they have, to articulate what those are, to look at how you might solution those or problem statement those, and then also talking into the technology side of it that we have about how you go about thinking around technology solutions for that. And those aren't just technology, they're process, or communication or whatever those things are. So I'm just coming at everything with that customer lens and thinking about it like that. So that's why I'm a customer director.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do enjoy it. It's like we've said, it's tricky problems and tricky challenges, and every customer that we speak to has a different challenge in a different space on this. So it's not like if you were buying a pair of trainers, everyone's wants to put them on feet, pretty obviously. Yeah. Whereas it's sometimes when you're looking at this, once you actually start having conversations with customers about what they really need to do, they think they need to do one thing, and actually the problem exists in a different part of their business or in a different pipeline element. So when we look at like, what do you want to do with your organization? Is your challenge maybe moving people around into the right jobs faster, or hiring in new people, or making sure the people you've got get the right new skills for new jobs, that are incoming? Or how do you do your strategy? Have the people you've got all the skills you need to deliver the strategy that you as a business think you're going to do? All of those bits, they might be a different part of a zigzag on that journey. And you just got to get deep into conversation with them about what those challenges are really to understand that.
So who is the customer for your business?
So our customer is
customers.
So we started off with Skills Miner. We've been working in the space of employability for a long time, working around getting people to understand their potential, getting people into work, understanding skills they could get into jobs, career pathways. And that's the space that we've been working in for a long time. So over the last 12 months or so, that funding in that sector has dramatically shrunk. So, it's been longer than 12 months, really. It's been shrinking, and it is definitely tight in that space. And we are a commercial business, so we have to identify ways of making our business work. So what we've done is flipped this. Instead of about employability, getting people into jobs, we've looked at inside organisations, have you got the talent you want? And if you haven't, where can you go and get it? And who are the best sort of people to bring into your business? And what are the transferable skills that will take you forward? And recently that change, a lot of organisations will be saying, like I touched on earlier, right, we're going to use AI everywhere. And you're like, okay, let's have a little think about what that really means. Where does it add value? Let's not just plaster it all over everything, because it's just going to be chewing up time and experiments and stuff like that. It's not really focused, maybe. So now we've got organisations that we're talking to. Our customer in that case is businesses that are saying, we think we want to do stuff differently, but we don't really know enough about our organisation right now, because we might have an org chart with people in it, but we don't really know that actually, say Jack's experience in the Navy brings these 25 other things to Jack, because we only see Jack doing this job that he's in today. So it's more about understanding the landscape, getting visibility of what you can do. But just the same way as if you think about it like your wardrobe, man, what am I going to wear? If you can see it all, you can choose. If you can only see one thing, that doesn't give you the ability to pick what options you've got. And can I mix this with that? And actually this team could be cross-functional with this team because they're really similar in a skill base. So until you've got visibility, you can't do anything with it. So that's what we work on, really.
It's a good analogy. I like that. This will be an interesting question because I know who you knock about with.
Oh.
And we had a brief chat over there, but I have to ask the question because of the name of the podcast. What does Agile mean to you? And what are your thoughts on it in general? Okay. Community, ways of working, what people say, good, bad.
So I think, it's good. It's a good thing to work in a more agile way. Mm-hmm. That might be agile with a lowercase a, right? It might. I think that any sort of people hold on to structure, don't they? Because it helps. Yeah. Because you say, if I can do this thing like this, that gives me structure. So I don't have to think about that thing anymore because I operate in this structure. So we used to have structures like big waterfall projects, and that allowed you to break down your thinking and put it into structure and take it to this thing. And whether that thing worked at the end or not, that's the problem. Yeah. What I struggle with sometimes in the agile space is and it might be an echo chamber thing, but there's a lot of voice like, you can't do that, or that's not agile, or that's not the way to do it. And it's kind of like, actually, okay, then as long as you're following principles like, customer value. Is it delivering value? Is it making sense? Does it support what we want to do? Those kind of decisions that are based around doing things better. I sometimes struggle with some of the rigor that people build around maybe ceremonies and things like that, because I feel like you're kind of flipping back to that structure again. You're kind of flipping back to structure makes me feel safe, so this is how we're going to do those things.
Yeah.
And I suppose you have to, it's like it's a gradient thing. Sometimes you'll need structure, sometimes operate with less structure, and people where your comfort factor is in that, in terms of lots of structure or less structure. But I think it's a good thing to work in an agile way, like I say. But I think where it's used to divide people drives me a bit nuts. Oh, well, that's not how I do it because I've got the badge that's this. I just say, okay, right, okie dokie.
Yeah.
What's the outcome you all want? Is everyone heading towards the same outcome? Because if we're arguing about the journey, that seems a bit bonkers. So and that might just be, like I say, an echo chamber thing where you are hearing that. And because you see it and hear it once, you keep hearing it over and over again because of algorithms.
Well, yeah, again, lovely segue. Obviously researching into this. Have you always shared thoughts online, or is it been a consistent thing you've always just wanted to put your thoughts out there? Because I have to, I feel sometimes like I have to do it because it for the business, but there's that, isn't there? So there's this, if you're in a business and you're growing your business and you want to work with people, you kind of have to live out loud a little bit. And do you enjoy it?
Mixed, I'd say. I think some of it there's the thing, the algorithm, right? The algorithm, and I posted this the other day a bit about the algorithm, is just what the system is making you behave like. So it's not a neutral thing. It's a business that's making you behave in a certain way to drive certain behaviors back into their product to make money. And that's kind of a necessary evil in some cases when you're growing a business or working in a business and you want to get people to get visible on what you're doing. So you have to kind of do that stuff. And you have to get comfortable with discomfort around that, whether that's what you do. I'm kind of a bit gobby, so I don't really mind doing some of that working out loud stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm actually usually of the view that I put stuff out there and say things and say, this is what I'm thinking on it, because it helps me to crystallize my thinking as well, to write it down. But I do get people come back to me, private message quite a lot, that say, I can't comment on things on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I can't be seen to be commenting, but I agree with what you might say, or it's difficult for me to put my voice into this space. Yeah. And I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because when you say, do you like it? I think I'm not like driven by, okay, I've got loads of likes on that, because that's like, I don't give a care really. I nearly said a swear.
You're allowed to swear.
Nearly said a swear. I'm not allowed to swear. But I wouldn't care about that. But what I care about is that helping somebody? Has that helped someone articulate something? Has it helped them see it in a way that might help them do their work, or that kind of thing? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like it or not really. I think I used to like it more. I like it less at the moment, because I think that it's very much about revenue generation for ads and premium and all that sort of stuff. And it used to feel like you could share good ideas with a groups of people and people pick stuff up. And I'm not sure whether the way systems are designed at the moment, a funnel, it's a funnel. Yeah. You're being funneled towards paying for views and paying for clicks all the time. And I kind of disagree with that in terms of it's less helpful. Yeah. So by its nature, that cycle will come back to it's less helpful and people won't use it.
Yeah,
it's just ads.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
At the moment, if it was a Facebook status, I would put it under the banner of it's complicated. Because it's how people will get to see this. It's how the business has grown. I like to pretend that I don't enjoy it, or I like to tell myself it's a necessary evil. But if I didn't like it that much, I probably wouldn't do it. I quite like the fight against the algorithm.
Right.
I quite like the fight against that, to try and zig when others are zagging.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it does feel a bit, But I think it's been a year of fighting on all angles, to be honest, for me so far.
Yeah.
It's trying to grow the business. It's trying to do this conference, 20th of October.
Yeah,
my tickets.
20th of October in Liverpool, which is, as a Manc, I really like Liverpool.
Yeah.
I really might prefer it.
Yeah. I'll stay on the fence for that one. So yeah, it's complicated. I feel like I need to get rid of it. I feel like I'm in some bad habits at the moment.
Yeah,
I'm in
and
some really bad habits with it. Like I'm in the gym in between sets. Check on LinkedIn.
Don't do that.
But the thing is, I know that I shouldn't be doing it. So
just wanted to get it so it electrocutes you a little bit on your phone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that we need to bring in. So it just gives you a small shock.
Yeah, I used to be really good. Like I don't take the phone into the bedroom. Like after 8 o'clock, my mantra is nothing good happens on social media after 8 o'clock. So I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Facebook. I do only have LinkedIn, but that just means everything gets focused on there.
Yeah. So that's the tricky one, isn't it? Because you can kind of think, well, that's LinkedIn, so I need it professionally.
Yeah,
and I need it for work.
But you just end up doom scrolling anyway.
Have you got your notifications on? Is that
no, nothing? I don't have any.
So you don't have it pinging you?
No, I couldn't cope with that.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the downfall, isn't it? So just like distraction city. So
I might as well have them on though. The amount of times I go on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's only habit forming.
Yeah.
So it's breaking habits, isn't it? But I mean, I use stuff. I use it in the morning and maybe at lunchtime. But I do stuff like put my phone away from me.
Yeah.
So I do that because I'm like, I've got to focus on other things. I have my phone away.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a parent of 3 teenagers. And I think they can do pretty much everything while on TikTok now, you would think. So, that is permanently welded to their hand. They're always on stuff, and getting them to also understand that this is all ads, this is all marketing, this is all...
You are the product.
You are, they're getting you to see this. You've seen this again. Now they want you to buy it. Trying to get them to understand that is interesting as well. So
I haven't got kids, and I think they get a bit of a hard time in general. But from an outsider point of view, do they understand it? Do they understand? Like, what's the question I'm trying to ask? Do they deserve more credit for being more switched on than people that are not specifically your kids, but you've got more, you're around them more than I am?
I don't know. I don't know if they know the impact of some of the stuff that they do.
Okay.
I think that I was working with a group of kids a couple of years ago, not my kids, other people's kids. And
that's all right.
and there was a lad who had his Apple Watch on, and he was getting notifications all the time. And he was trying to do some work, like a workshop that we were working through with him. And he went, "Oh yeah, just another notification or whatever." And I said, "Well, what is it that's notifying you?" Oh, he said, "Oh, it's just random." And I went, "Really isn't random?"
Yeah.
So that's, and he was sort of like 17. I said, "It isn't random. So you're being nudged the whole time to come back onto whatever platform it is that's nudging you, because it's this stuff about the attention economy. It's like, eyes on things, paid by minutes, visibility. And if they could see that, what operates underneath that, that might be quite interesting for more kids to be aware of. And I don't know that they're aware of that.
Yeah, because I haven't watched that documentary on Netflix everyone talks about. I can't even remember what it's called now. It's basically saying social media, you are the product.
Yeah.
Calvin's Googling it right
Is
now.
he
I can see.
going to say? But it's that thing. It's like behavioural attention stuff being used not for good things is not great, is it?
No.
You know, and it's pretty hard.
What's he put? I can't. The social dilemma. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but everyone says we should.
Yeah, addiction.
Yeah, and how. Thank you very much, mate. It's handy. It's cool, that, isn't it? Just having someone there.
I know,
type away.
that.
I read once somewhere that and it does make sense. I don't know how true it is, but it sounds legit. Like the scroll is based on like fruit machines and like gambling because you're constantly going after the next hit. Again, I don't know how. I'd have to fact check that, but you can see, you can sort of make the link, I suppose.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, what did we do instead? Like
went to
before,
work.
You know what I mean?
Like saying before.
What did we do before? What did we do before that? Because I know like my kids will go out or they come in and then they'll scroll for a couple of hours, maybe as like a decompression.
Yeah.
You know, like,
worrying.
yeah, they just sort of scroll through something. And I think, what did we do? I came home and watched Neighbours, you know, probably.
Yeah.
But that was also collective. So that's what's interesting to me about it as well, is that it's diversifying and narrowing at the same time. So he's offering you loads and loads and loads of stuff, but once you go onto one thing, it's offering you all that stuff in that depth.
Yeah.
And that there's not like the collective side of it. So I was thinking back to like, you know, even if you'd have, we haven't got any money, we can't go out, what do we do? You'd be with a group of friends watching telly together or doing something together, even playing computer game together.
Yeah.
And they are doing stuff together, but online.
Yeah.
But it's not got the physicality of that together.
There you are. Yeah. Because when I was growing up.
When back in the day,
the
land did no day.
Yeah.
Plan did no.
PlayStations were a thing. But it was like PS2s. You didn't have the online bit. So you still had to be in the same living room.
Yeah.
There was none of this headset on stuff. So there is. You were together even though you were playing computer games.
Yeah. So there's pluses and minuses to this because in lockdown, I have one of my boys was online playing games in lockdown. And actually that was the nearest to normal that anyone had.
Yeah.
Because he would do that anyway, pre-lockdown, and then he did it during lockdown, and then he did it after lockdown. So that was just like normality, you know, how many people he was shooting on his game, that's not so normal maybe. But that the normality for them was they were all talking on their headsets, and that was just same at the end of the day for them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think kids, it's hard for them to operate in that space and then be expected to meet it's a generational thing. And I'm like really old now. So I'm thinking about it on the terms of like, say when I started work, what was the environment like? What's your work bestie like? Yeah. You know, that's the intergenerational thing. You know, you make friends with somebody who's 12, 15 years older than you or got different, and you have a commonality, of course, of what you do at work maybe. So for young people going in, they can make friends intergenerationally and understand how different things work and understand that there's those sort of, that's why I was putting that original post, that reverse mentoring. What can you learn from each other? What can the employees at the end of, you know, the older end of the scale learn from the younger people coming in and vice versa? Because there'll be loads that you can learn from one another. If you don't sort of build bridges across that, it's not going to help. Probably not going to help.
Yeah. So to your point, at the end, where was it? You put something poignant. We've got more in common than we have not, or something. Oh yeah. Where did you put it? In that. There's more in common than divides these groups. Yeah. That's what jumped out.
And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, there is more for everyone. There's always more in common than, you always, it's again, it's back to that simplifying. I'm different to you because I do these things. It's like, okay, but what all the rest of it is similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone else has got relationships or understanding. There'll be the other things that you've got commonality on, and it's sort of understanding that picture of people. Really, there's a bit more to that.
And that is the perfect place to formally apologise for mispronouncing your name.
That's all right.
I'll do it on camera, and I'll probably say it until you leave the building. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
No sweat. It's been lovely to join you in sunny Liverpool.
Yeah, it is sunny today. I have to put some sun cream on before I go outside.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Jack.